Listen, Met fans, listen. This series and this division was not lost this weekend. This series and this division was lost at the deadline. All we heard, Tiki, I got to tell you, what an embarrassing, pitiful performance by the Mets and not just what we saw on the field. I got Brandon Nimmo using basketball analogies to describe the morale after the second game Saturday. I didn't like it. Then you just heard the cut and Jerry Rec goes up. They didn't like it. That sounds like a defeated team. You know why? Because they know they are not as good as the Braves. And here's the thing. All we heard all summer, wow, what an incredible deadline maneuvering or maneuverings by Billy Epler. Hey, I got news for you. When you start the most important series of the season, and Friday night, you get, no disrespect to Kana and Nimmo, they're solid players, but you roll into Atlanta against a team whose offense is twice as good as yours. You've got Kana, Nimmo, and Naquin in right field. That's your starting outfield for this pivotal season series with the Braves. Naquin, Ruff, who's been a dog, Vogelback, who's been invisible for the most part, and Givens. These are the reinforcements that Billy Epler handed to Buck Showalter. Are you surprised the Mets got swept this weekend? Yes, I am surprised they got swept. Am I surprised that they're looking up at the Braves? No, because I told you all summer the Braves were better and the Mets needed a legit bat. Awful weekend in Atlanta.
Yeah, it was
just awful.
It was bad. And BT, I was at the game on Friday. I actually lost my wallet at the game. Interesting story. I'll tell a little bit later. But the thing that I feel after seeing this weekend series is that it was a collapse, obviously. You can look at it however you want and say, they didn't collapse. The Braves are better. On paper, the Braves are better. In actuality, the Braves are better. The defending World Series champs are better. Like, you can look at it any way to make yourself feel better about the Mets being in second place right now in the division and likely not winning the division unless the Braves absolutely collapse against the Marlins, which is likely not going to happen.
Yeah, but then you still need the Mets to win 3.
That's true, but it's not going to happen because the Marlins are shutting it down, right? Even Alcantara is not even pitching.
He's not pitching.
And so you're not even worried from a Braves standpoint about what's going forward. They took care of business when they had to take care of business. But when I think back on this, and it's probably only going back 3 weeks or so, this collapse, if we're going to call it that, felt inevitable. And I know that Met fans will get upset about that, but think about it. All of what BT just described is 100% correct. They didn't have the bats to match what the Braves were tossing out there. But more importantly, the arms started to become questionable. And I'm talking about the aces. I'm talking about Scherzer, who had the oblique issue. And again, it was nothing. He self-identified it, took himself out of the game, let himself heal for a little bit. But when that happens in August, aren't you a little bit concerned that it's going to become an issue at some point later on? It obviously did. deGrom, as good as he looked when he first came back, there were some signs that, man, something's not quite right. Like, he's not fully.
Not when he first came back, he was unhittable.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like 2 weeks after that. It was like something's not quite right. Like, he's going to have 11, 10 strikeouts every single outing, but something's not quite right. And so when I was at the game, I was getting frustrated. I mean, obviously, I was surrounded by Braves fans, and it's just like every time something big happens, they're all standing up. I'm just sitting there, just like, what the hell's going on here?
Stadium.
Oh, Truist is unbelievable, stadium. Right? But I was getting annoyed because there was nothing to get excited about from the Mets standpoint,
except McNeil, who was terrific.
For McNeil, but I mean, it was insignificant.
Yeah.
He was great, but it was insignificant to the outcome. I mean, Nito was there to make it exciting when he hit the home run, but then Dansby hits another one right after that. But watching Jacob deGrom, to me, it felt like he was being stubborn. Like, I can throw 101 mile an hour four-seamer, and you can't hit it. I'm going to keep throwing it. And again, he had a quality outing. He went 6 innings. He only gave up 3 runs, but they were 3 demoralizing home runs.
Yep. He failed. Did not get the job done. Period.
2 of them were back-to-back. And it was just.
Scherzer failed.
You keep looking at the board. It's 100 mile an hour four-seamer, 100 mile an hour four-seamer, 100. Dansby Swanson can hit that, dude. Matt Elson can hit that. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Dansby Swanson can hit it again. And so, like, the stubbornness in his mind, because he's still searching for a little something, made it, to me, almost inevitable that the Braves were going to find a way to better them. And so when I look at the big picture, the collapse, as you want to call it, you could see it coming from 2-3 weeks away.
I mean, I saw it coming 2-3 months ago. I mean, it's laughable.
I can't say that.
It's laughable.
I can't push it back that far.
It is laughable that people challenged me as and I'm all for that. I mean, it's fun, but like could not see what I saw months ago. I was coming on, and I take no pleasure. And by the way, hold on. Let me step back for a second. I have not yet used the word collapse, nor will I, because number one, to be fair to the Mets, they played solid base. I know they haven't beaten the bad teams. They were supposed to pace them, and they should have at least won one, and then you probably win the division. All that aside, they're not collapsing. It's not like they've lost a 9 of 13 and they're just spiraling and hemorrhaging out of control. That's not the case. But I remember saying in May, and I understood why Met fans were getting tired of hearing it, and if I was a Met fan, I would have pushed back as well. But I kept telling you, guys, the Mets lead baseball in infield hits. Guys, the Mets lead baseball in sacrifice flies. Guys, there's just too many soft spots in this order. Guys, it's a little circumstantial the way the Mets are setting this 100-win pace. It was never a diss. It was never a knock. It was the real, honest interpretation of what I saw. And then what I saw this weekend was the two best players, that may, arguably, whatever, for the Braves came in and thoroughly outplayed the Mets' two best players. Alonso and Lindor were thoroughly outplayed by Olsen and Swanson. And what I don't get, I don't know that the players process it this way. You played pro sports, you tell me. But Pete Alonso, who had a phenomenal season, by the way, he's the only Met, no other Met's ever done this, to have 40 home runs twice in his career. He set the Mets RBI record. We know this, right? But all but 5 of Alonso's starts this year, he was in the number 4 hole. Why the hell is he batting second?
I don't know.
To me, that looks desperate.
I have no idea.
Why are you altering? And I heard it was attributed, the matchups in the bullpen, blah. And I'm sure it's analytically driven. I know that there's a reason for it. I know that Buck and the staff, they're not just guessing and throwing darts out of desperation. But to me, you got to this point with Alonso with the 4 spot. And yes, I know that Marte's missing, and they really miss him. But here's the big problem, Tiki. By now going to the wild card, which is exactly where they're going, which, by the way, is the best of 3. All the games will be at City. That's somewhat comforting. But they mess up multiple layers to what now should, although I hope it doesn't, derail their October chase. Number one, the veteran starting pitchers, myriad injuries, they're not young, the innings, all that stuff that we've talked about, they could have used the extra rest, not getting it.
Yep.
Number one, because they're going to play the wild card game on Friday. Starling Marte, who's really the engine of this team, is not going to be back for the divisional series, for the wild card series. If you would have won and handled business against the Braves, I don't know, maybe the most important piece of your lineup outside of Alonso is actually ready to play. That's not going to happen. And to further complicate it, guess who you're playing if you're lucky enough to win the wild card series? The Dodgers. So everything that went down this weekend, it's got to drive you nuts. I felt for you. On a lot of levels, this Mets team deserved better, but you get what you earn. And they did not play well. And this, to me, goes back to the deadline. They needed a big bat. And I said it for months, and everybody was mad at me. Well, now you know. 877-337-6666. All right. Oh, jeez. Ugh.
And you're not even a Mets fan.
No, but I love good baseball, and I love good stories. And I'm, listen, I don't hate the Mets, but that's not even the point. The Mets deserve to get swept this weekend. Mike's in Bayonne. What's up, Mike?
What's up, Brandon? Brandon, I called you, I think it was about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, right after the deadline. And I totally agree with you about the lineup and the lack of pop in this lineup. And it came back to bite us. If you go down the lineup, Brandon Nimmo, he has done nothing in about a month and a half, 2 months. Absolutely nothing. Lindor can't come up in a big spot. McNeil is a professional hitter. He's an artist out there.
He is.
So I have no worries about him.
None.
Pete, always swinging at a first pitch. Never works the count. Down 2-3 runs, always swinging at a first pitch. Can't come up with a big hit when it matters. You got Nito, who is what he is. You can't knock the guy. I mean, the guy's garbage at the plate. Then you got McCann, who's a corpse. Okay,
He's horrendous.
We're missing Marte. We bring up Vientos and we bring up Alvarez 2 months too late, and we expect these guys to come up and contribute to a pennant race. I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Epler was an epic failure at the deadline. Epic failure. Friday night, we're down 3-1. The first guy Buck goes to in a bullpen is McGill. What is this guy? Why do we have to bring in McGill, the first guy out of the bullpen, in a big-time spot? That is not the opportunity.
Buck didn't have a good weekend.
Yeah,
Buck has not had a good month, actually.
Lack of options,
not.
though. I mean, that's lack of options in the bullpen.
Thank you, Mike. That's going there. I'm sorry, Mike.
Yeah, I appreciate your call, Mike.
Thanks, bud.
And look, I was there, and I first of all, I almost felt bad for Francisco Alvarez.
I did too, actually.
I really did.
I did too.
Right, and he gets up.
It's
his first Major League Baseball experience. Max Fried is on the hill, who's a pretty good pitcher. And
very good.
He ended up getting sick in the game. Like he left in the fifth inning or whatever it was. Like, what happened to him? Like, he wasn't getting banged around. He was like chucking. He was throwing up in the bullpen. In the dugout. So he got sick. That's why I had to pull him. But anyways, Francisco Alvarez, they need bats. They expect him to be the hero. I don't know what they expected him to do. And he just looked overmatched.
He was overmatched.
Right? And he grounded out, and I was just watching him run. I'm like, man, this kid is struggling, man.
This kid better hit.
He looks like no kind of athlete.
He's not up there. He's not Jose Reyes.
That's right.
He's going to hit. He is going to hit.
Go squat
for this team
and hit home runs.
Yeah.
Right? But that was his first.
I didn't like that. Although you were off. I
experience.
did say if you're bringing him up, play him. If you bring him up, get him in there.
I agree.
Not behind the dish. Get him some at-bats.
But do it a month ago or 2 months ago.
That's the gripe that a lot of Met fans have.
That's right. I really felt bad. He was searching. He was swinging at everything.
Every single time he swung at the first pitch.
That's right.
Every time.
That's right.
Then the bat goes flying out of his hand.
Twice.
Yeah, I'm talking about the first one.
Yes.
The one I was just. That's a tough spot for the kid. I'm not worried about him, but you're obviously worried about your Mets. That goes without saying. Tiki and Tierney here on the Fan.